Good evening, and welcome to this regular meeting of the Helotes City Council. It's February 27th, 2020, and we're underway at 7 p.m. We'll start the agenda tonight with an invocation, and Councilmember Byes will do the invocation for us, and then we'll have the pledges to the American and Texas flags. So if you would please stand for the invocation and pledges.
Let us give thanks for all the blessings, opportunities, and challenges you have given us. Guide us with your strength and wisdom so we can make the right decisions for all the citizens of Helotes. We also thank you for our wonderful, hardworking employees that allow our city to thrive and move forward as we move into the future. As always, we ask that you keep our first responders, not only here, but all over the country, safe while they perform their unselfish duties. For those that are not able to be with their family and loved ones because of military service, we pray for your quick and safe return. May we give our best always and be assured of your presence with us. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas,
one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay. Next up is citizens to be heard. We don't have anyone who signed up to speak tonight, so we'll go on to our consent agenda. And that tonight is items 3 through 5. Are there any questions about items 3 through 5 or a request to pull any of the items?
I just have a question. Why isn't the financial stuff in there this time?
We do that the first meeting of each month.
Oh, okay. I don't know why. It seems like I'm always looking at it.
No, that's always the first meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it?
That's it.
Okay. Then we take a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 3 through 5.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve consent agenda items 3 through 5.
We have a motion from Fredericks. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Byes. No discussion required. We'll call the question. All in favor of approving consent agenda items 3 through 5, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. That takes us to items for individual consideration, and item number 6 is discussion of an action on a request by Cross Development, SF San Antonio Bandera LLC for a variance to the Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 91, vegetation requiring parking lot shading and street tree planting prior to the issuance of a building permit for Service First Automotive Center located at 12596 Bandera Road. So if I can have a motion and a second to discuss and take action on this item, please.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to discuss, take action on 6.
We have a motion from Byes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Holmes. Bert, your motion, you're up first.
I agree with the city arborist's recommendation to approve the variance. He says it's given due to the number of existing trees and vegetation that is being preserved, as well as the proposed landscape plan, which includes planting of several new trees. This adequately meets the intent of the ordinance, and I agree with him.
Okay, Alan,
I'm fine. No questions, no comments.
you're fine?
Well, look.
Alex?
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I do have one question, and I briefly addressed this just prior to the meeting, but I wanted to bring it up. The agenda item to me reads a little differently than the request behind it, and I think we're probably in good shape, but I just did want to address it because the agenda item indicates that the request is for variance for the parking lot shading prior to the issuance of a building permit. And my first initial thought was that wasn't that they were requesting, that the agenda item wasn't saying that they were requesting that it not be required at all, but just not be required prior to the issuance of a building permit. So I just thought the way I read that originally, I was thinking it was more a matter of the order in which we were doing this, not rather than waiving all requirements for the tree planting. But I since I did ask that question and thought our city administrator has indicated that it's just the way it's worded, but that is the request, and that is to waive the requirement for the tree planting in the areas noted. And as I read this specific information on the background, it identifies that there were two main arguments associated by the developer that said that it was difficult to plant the trees. One of which was that on the side property line, there really isn't any space available to plant a tree because it's paved all the way to the neighboring property line. And I would concur with that analysis. The area where it butts up against Houseman Road, there's nothing there that they can plant except for the easement, so I don't have a problem with that. The larger square behind the building where all the vehicles would essentially be making a turn in order to go in or out of the various bays, I understand that planting a tree there would be a little bit awkward. However, I'm not so sure I'm in agreement with the elimination of the requirement for a tree in the small square section, which is in the middle of a parking lot area with back-to-back parking spaces all around it. I don't see a reason why we would have to grant a variance, despite the fact that there are other trees on the property in that particular area. I know that I've go through many different areas where people park in parking lots, and the first place people gravitate to is a place that's right next to a tree. And while the others are either easements or turning rights away, I don't see that small square on the top of our screen up there as being one that would qualify for a place where you couldn't put a tree. It doesn't interfere with turning radiuses, it doesn't interfere with easements, it doesn't interfere with anything else. And it would seem to me a great place to put a tree so that people can park up against it. Initially, it's going to be small, but eventually it will be shaded, and I think that's it. That's just my thought and opinion. I'd like to hear the remainder of the council's thoughts.
Okay. Paul?
Is that area that it's in question, is it already paved over currently?
No,
So that is on the...
that's this rectangle back here.
So that is in the grassy area currently?
Yeah, if you look at the site plan on the sheet behind there, you'll lose, can you flip the site plan up, the next one? There's 4 parking spaces in there, and Josh pointed that out because there's just, it's less than 20 feet, basically, and he just pointed out there's, no tree there when there could be, but again, that would take up at least 4 parking places. It's one thing I noticed.
And all that along the bottom is, on the back that's the existing trees that are gonna stay.
On the site plan, on the landscape plan, yeah.
The only thing we have to confirm is that if they put a tree there and it takes up those parking spaces, is it going to take up the requirements of the number of parking spaces required for that facility? So we would have to confirm that. So if they put a tree there and it takes up 4 spaces, will they meet the requirements of the parking spaces for that site? So that's what, and I don't have that information, I'd have to confirm that.
Yeah, and that would, to me, be an amended motion to amend the motion to require a tree there, and then we just see how the amended motion would carry.
I'm okay with it existing, because especially if they're gonna go back and put some other trees there. I know that is a big area, but I think,
Well, if you look at the second sheet of the site plan, you'll see all those existing trees back in the back too, so there's plenty of shade. Anything else?
no.
Cynthia?
No, I really don't have anything to say about that tree. There are a lot of trees back there. They're pretty big, but, so the request, was it because of, they wanted the extra parking? Did they wanted to eliminate the tree? That's what I'm trying to figure out, or is there an impediment there?
There's no impediment. We've got a couple of representatives. James Poole is down here from Fort Worth. James, come on up if you want. And then their landscape architect is here also, so they can pitch in and answer any questions. Just state who you are and who you're with, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, good evening. I'm James Poole. I'm with Cross Development. Our address is 4336 Marsh Ridge Road, Carrollton, Texas. So, yes, this area that you're talking about with the parking, so right now we're at the minimum parks for this use. So if we were to remove those and add parking, then we'd be under parking. We'd have to come back for variance for parking as well. So,
Okay,
hopefully that answers the question. We are trying to add back as many as we can in the areas we can. There are some constraints with the tightness of the site, so.
okay. That's what I wanted to know.
Bert, any follow-up?
I don't believe a tree's needed there. I think it's fine the way it is. There's a lot of trees being left in the back there. They're gonna maintain that area back there, take some of the brush out, if I remember right, what I read. I don't think it's needed, and I will not amend my motion.
Okay. Alan, anything?
Pardon me, I too thought about what Councilman Blue said about the tree there. That was on my mind, but the building has 18 service bays and a total of 50 parking spaces, and I think the ratio there is about correct because you've got 18 cars there. You've got other cars, the employees and other people coming and going and staging areas. So the loss of 4 parking spaces, to me, if I ran the business, would be important to me to have those spaces. And I didn't consider the requirements of parking, so glad you brought that up.
Okay. Alex, anything, any follow-up?
Well, I appreciate the opinions of my council members. One, I don't think a tree takes up 4 parking spaces, but I'll, in arborist words, I will bow to the opinions of my peers. Thank you.
Anything else, Paul? No, sir. Cynthia, anything? Okay. No further questions then. An aye vote here will be to allow the variance on the landscaping, mainly not requiring the perimeter or streetscape planting along Hausman Road, the service bay area waiting area, there won't be any trees there, and then that rectangular space in the back, there won't be a requirement for a tree there, so that's the aye vote. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Variance is granted. And by golly, once again, that finishes us up for our agenda. And we will, if there are no objections to adjourning, we'll adjourn. Any objections? No? 7:12.